Yesterday, a North Carolina pastor was arrested at the Capitol building for praying in the rotunda with a group of people. And the story, I caught the tail end of it last night as I was going to bed, didn't have time to look into it. And I got up today, totally forgot about it. But a thing came across my Facebook feed about it, and I read it and I got enraged. I was like, oh, that's terrible. They arrested the pastor because he was praying against the Republican budget. Seriously? That's bad. I have to do a video about this. So before I did the video, I started to spend a little time to look into it a bit and found out that I don't think he was arrested wrongly. I don't think it was a wrongful arrest. And I'll tell you why. Because he apparently broke the rules of demonstrations at the Capitol. They have rules about these things. And he, even according to his own account, broke those rules. So you break the rules, you got to be arrested. But I wanted to talk a bit about how truth plays into this, because I could have gone into this story and just ignored that and pretended I didn't know about that. And I could have really used it to bash MAGA over the head, to bash Republicans over the head, which, I'd kind of like to do because I think they're doing a lot of bad things. But, their movement is so rooted in lies that I'm constantly talking to other Christians who are on board with it, full steam ahead. And I'm always telling them, look, we have to fight these battles with spiritual weapons, not worldly weapons. If I wanted to fight this with worldly weapons, I would use this story to bash Republicans bad. I would talk about how they talk about being so religious, and then the minute a religious guy comes along, preaching what Jesus preached, they have him arrested. Now, whether it was legal or not for him to do it, it doesn't look good. It sure doesn't in this environment. It doesn't look good. It wasn't a smart thing to do, I don't think. Not wise. But I don't think they really did anything wrong in this case. So I'm having to give up this story for the sake of truth to say, you know, let's don't use these things to bash the other side if they're not true. Both sides need to tell the truth. Don't make things up about the other side. If the other side is truly as bad as you think they are, you shouldn't have to make things up to make them look bad, because apparently the truth would be enough, right? Anyway, I wanted to just take a brief look at the story. Reverend William Barber was arrested Monday in the Capitol Rotunda while leading a prayer protest against Republican budget cuts. He and two others were charged with crowding, obstructing, and incommoding by the Capitol Police. Incommoding, yep, they were charged with that. Have you ever been charged with that? It basically just means inconveniencing. So why don't they use that? Why don't they say inconveniencing? It's not even that much different in the spelling. Anyway, that's the word they use, and that's apparently what he was doing. He was inconveniencing people. Barber is a North Carolina progressive activist known for his Moral Monday movement, and he has weekly sessions of civil disobedience and a moral critique of state policies. Now, personally, I agree with what he was protesting about cuts to Social Security and Medicaid. I agree with him on that. Um, but I don't know if I agree so much that a Christian should be this intensely involved in politics in this kind of way. He's a pastor, and I don't view this as the primary job of a pastor to be involved in political things like this. He's doing it every Monday. This apparently takes up most of his time, probably. Anyway, it's not for me to say, just a personal opinion. I think all Christians should stay a little farther away from politics, and we shouldn't be so, caught up in it and consumed by it. Uh, his arrest has intensified a national debate on religious expression and protest rights in government spaces. So that's something that may come out of it. But here's what the point I wanted to get to is down here in the yellow highlight. The group's protest was aimed at highlighting severe budget cuts feared to jeopardize programs like Medicaid, and Social Security. Okay, that's right. And then Barber said, to think that we went in to pray against the budget, but to pray nonetheless, and the order now is that evidently if you pray, you are seen as violating the rules of the rotunda. Well, I looked up the rules of the rotunda. He's not seen as violating them. He actually did violate them by admitting that he prayed. He's admitting that he violated the rules of the rotunda. Let me show you this page from the Capitol Police website, if I can find it. Hold on just a second. Okay, I got it. That was a little harder than I thought. This is from the United States Capitol Police website. This was revised in January of 2024. So this document was written long before Trump ever became president, even before he was elected. And let's look at what it says about demonstration activity. Demonstration activity is defined as follows. Defined? It's defined. So they have a typo there. Any demonstrating, parading, picketing, speech making, holding of vigils, sit-ins, or other activities conducted for the purpose of demonstrating approval or disapproval of governmental policies or practices or the lack thereof, expressing a view on public issues, or bringing into public notice any such or bringing into public notice any issue or other matter. Demonstration activity is allowed in designated areas as indicated on the maps that they have and in Appendix B. So it specifically states, it basically says prayer, vigils. Okay, so what is a vigil exactly? Does a vigil have anything to do with prayer? Well, let's find out. Okay, here we go. So what is a vigil exactly? A period of keeping awake during the time usually spent asleep, especially to keep watch or pray. So that has the sense of prayer. And number two, in the Christian church, the eve of a festival or a holiday or holy day as an occasion of religious observance. So again, kind of a connotation of religion there. And then what does it mean to hold a vigil? If someone keeps a vigil or keeps vigil somewhere, they remain there quietly for a period of time, especially at night. Okay, this wasn't at night, but anyway, for example, because they are praying or are making a political protest. Okay, so by any definition, he was violating the rules of the rotunda. Now, the post I saw on Facebook that got me interested in it today and got my blood boiling a little bit actually. And I just want to read you a little bit of it, the first part at least, to give you an idea of how this propaganda works for both sides. I mean, this time it's actually lying about the right. It's lying about Republicans. You could say it's lying about Trump and MAGA and his whole uh, movement that he leads. And it's not good, even though I support the end goal here, which is to stop them from doing these bad things. And I understand that this is a more effective way of doing it than if we just tell the truth all the time. I understand that. But as Christians, we have to tell the truth. And as I always say, God never asked us to sin to win. If we can only win by sinning, then he hasn't asked us to win. It's that simple. So Christians should always, whether you're on the right or the left or in the middle, or if you're on the right but you're not a MAGA person like me, I mean, I'm on the right to the extent that what I mean by that is the traditional right, the pre-Trump right. I was a conservative, but I don't recognize these people as conservative at all. They're way beyond anything I ever thought was conservative. But I don't like it when MAGA lies about the left, and therefore I can't like it when the left lies about MAGA. So let's take a look at this. And I don't know who wrote this, and it wasn't signed, and there was no author attributed to it. I mean, it wasn't attributed to any author. But it starts off, the Reverend Dr. William Barber II isn't some fringe loudmouth with a sandwich board and a megaphone. He's one of the last honest moral leaders America has left, a civil rights titan who moves mountains despite a spinal disease that turns standing into agony. Okay, so as a lifelong conservative, at least up until Trump came along, what this does to me is it says, okay, he's not a wacko lunatic. He's not out there just always protesting all the time. And apparently, though, the truth is that he actually is. So I don't know. I mean, according to his own bio, he leads this thing, Protest Mondays or something like that. So every Monday they go out and do some kind of thing like this. Anyway, he founded Repairers of the Breach. He co-chairs the Poor People's Campaign. He teaches public theology at Yale Divinity School because apparently someone at Yale decided a real Christian voice was more important than another plastic technocrat. So when I read Yale, I think, okay, so he's probably not a fringe lunatic. Okay. So I'm thinking maybe he's kind of like me. And I'm starting to have a little sympathy for him. Anyway, it goes on to say, Barber has spent his life standing in pulpits, courthouses, and streets, thundering the kind of truth that leaves hypocrites and half-steppers shifting uncomfortably in their chairs. He doesn't just preach about justice, he embodies it. And as I read this, and it talks about hypocrites and half-steppers shifting uncomfortably in their chairs, I'm thinking, yeah, that's MAGA. That's the MAGA crowd, hypocrites. So this guy's against the same people I'm against. I should support him. And for that, on April 28th, 2025, yesterday, they handcuffed him. What was Barber's crime? Setting fires, smashing windows, storming the Capitol like a frothing MAGA army? No, he prayed. He stood quietly with a few fellow clergy and workers under the Capitol rotunda and dared to pray for the poor, the sick, the broken, against a Republican-led budget that guts Medicaid and slashes lifelines like it was pruning dead branches instead of cutting real people loose. So I read that. I think, hey, I like this guy. He's praying for the same things I'm praying for. But, it's really trying to slant the story to make it look like they arrested him because he prayed and because he wasn't a MAGA Christian, but a Christian nonetheless. He got arrested, and we should all be infuriated by that. But he wasn't arrested just because he prayed. He was arrested because he prayed in an area of our capital where it's been a long-standing rule that you're not allowed to do that there, in that spot. There are other places where you can do it, but that's not the place where you can do it, especially if you're praying, and it said in the rules, for or against any policies coming out of the government. So even if you're praying for the policies, if he had been praying for these Republican-led cuts to take place, if they were honest, they would have let him out over that too. So I don't know. I wanted to get all upset about this. I wanted to do a real smashing video about it, real high energy. This is really bad. Look what they've done. Make you all angry. And then I couldn't do it because when I looked into it, it just didn't seem to be the truth. So anyway, let this be a lesson in truthfulness. Let's fight our battles with truth and love and let God, let the chips fall where they may. All right. Let God take care of the rest. That's all he asks us to do. All he asks us to do is obey him and be faithful to him. Let's do that. And he promises he will take care of the rest. Seek him first and he will take care of all our needs. All right. Take care. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.